independence. It is 60 years down the road for the nation led by Her Excellency Samia Suluhu Hassan. 60 years down the road. The independence was actually, if I had to look back to my history, this country got our independence through the leadership of Mwalimu Julius Kambarage Nyerere. And if you have to look at that, if you look at the developments that have come through the championing of the East African community, we've seen times when Idi Amin came through. That is when you would see that East African community went into shambles and that. But the fathers of the East African community, Mwalimu Julius Nyerere, there was Dr. Milton Obote, there was also Jomo Kenyatta of Kenya. And so the transition of that, you could see that the Tanzanian economy has been growing in big figures. And of late, just recently here, in this particular year, when they lost, they led His Excellency John Pombe Magufuli. But let's now look at the economic outlook of Tanzania for the last 60 years. The economic outlook is quite positive, with the real GDP projected to grow by the end of 2021 to a 4.1% and 5.8% in 2022. So there is also an estimation of growth by 2023. And due to the improved performance of the tourism sector and the reopening of the trade corridors, the energy and fuel price increase is expected to persist by the end of 2021, if you to look at the economy in Tanzania, raising overall inflation to around 3.9% in 2021 and 3.4% in 2022. Spending on large infrastructure projects and depressed revenue performance are expected to widen the fiscal deficit to 3.2% of the GDP, and widen the fiscal deficit to 3.2% of GDP in both 2021 and 2022, financed mainly by external borrowing. So if I don't know, normally I haven't got a chance of traveling out of the country, but if you're to look at Tanzania and the development Tanzania is going through, it being a middle class economy, you can definitely get to understand the development that have actually been happening, and they are making 60 years down the road. I think Uganda is a year younger than Tanzania for now. But with the developments out there, we've seen the transition coming through, even with the fact that they lost the president this year. When Samia Suluhu Hassan took over, the development continuously goes on. So we are going to look at this particular build-up to their independence. The celebrations are already kicking off in Tanzania. And what happens normally on an Independence Day, they have Independence Day celebrations at different grounds that happen. Just like here in Uganda, we do have the Kololo grounds here for independence when we're celebrating. But since we are mainly driving business, mine is to take you through the business angle and to show you how Tanzania is faring in terms of the business. If you look at the current account deficit, is highly projected to grow by 3.9% of the GDP. That's a huge boost to Tanzania's economy. In the last 5 years, there was a time when John Pombe Magufuli, because here Uganda Airlines is just getting back to the grassroots. But there was a time when Tanzania already got the bombardiers on board. Air Tanzania went back. They have a new airport. So you can look at that. I wouldn't want to compare with our airport saga here in Uganda. But then when you try to consider how the developments are happening in Tanzania there is a lot to admire, a lot to learn from the Tanzanians. And if you're to look at, even if we're to drive it in a sector, here our fintechs are growing, financial technology is here growing definitely, and look at how our country is actually adopting to the digitization. In their country, it is quite the opposite as well. The growth of the internet services is quite immense. And you will agree with me that developments are following up, and this is actually helping out in the development of various sectors, from the economy down to the entertainment, down to the tourism sectors. Everywhere you go in Tanzania, there is something to learn, something to cope up with. If I'm to draw back a little bit, when I was actually talking to one of my guests here, and he was telling me when they traveled to Tanzania, he realized how Tanzanians adopt to a life. It's quite different from ours. It is collectiveness in one way or the other. And if you look at collectiveness in the economy, is you are driving business for your benefit. And once you're driving business for your benefit, who knows? You're actually going to grow. In a time previously here when the International Monetary Fund was actually saying the Tanzanian currency and the Ugandan currency have performed greatly well against the dollar, as the Kenyan currency and the Rwandese franc is actually losing value. It wasn't a surprise to see that Tanzania still is taking part in there, because there are a lot of developments that are being put in there. When you get the politics and play them quite well with the economy of the country, things are going to work on very perfectly well. I'm still building on this particular issue here. And one would wonder, why are we focusing on Tanzania? Today is the 9th of December. 9th, they are celebrating independence. And for a country like Tanzania celebrating independence, I think it is now the oldest East African community country, because Tanzania 1961, Kenya 1963, Uganda 1962. And Julius Nyerere is actually a very big figure. And I even think Mama Nyerere is still a big figure. Even here in Uganda, if you were to look at during the celebrations of the Uganda Matters, I don't think she has ever missed any. She normally comes through. If it's a virtual one like normally here, she still attends. And you could definitely see how she's also attached to the faith of it. The mother of, I think she's considered as, they are considered as the parents or the godfathers of Tanzania, formerly known as Tanganyika. I don't want to go through into a lot of politics, rather a lot into a politicking situation. But let's talk the economy here. If we are to look at, due to the lingering effects of COVID-19 on the merchandise exports and increased imports of capital goods, I think Tanzania has performed quite well in terms of curbing the spread. If we may all know, I don't think Tanzania recorded anything to do with a lockdown. With the time when our economies were actually heading into the lockdown, the late John Pombe Magufuli had opened the economy. Students were going to school. And if you look at the numbers that were recorded dead, the numbers of the dead people weren't quite too many as it happened in some of the countries that were under lockdown. I'm not trying to insinuate anything here, but I'm trying to show you how Tanzania has actually been surviving throughout the last 2 years. If we're talking about the improved infrastructure developments in Tanzania, undoubtedly, I didn't mention of the airport. And I think in one of our mini documentaries before, we've played one time the airport, this Tanzanian airport, the different terminals there on the Tanzanian airport. And they if you're to look at the airport, leave alone even the airport, they are, this is the same country that is going to be managing our crude oil, the Tanga port in Tanzania. So look at that, the East African crude oil pipeline will be going through the Tanzanian country. And now look at the mitigation. One will look and say, we're seeing another steady growth for Tanzania. Very calculative, because they know this is what you're supposed to do when you're gaining from it. You have two ports, you're managing imports and exports of most of the countries, Uganda, Rwanda, Burundi, the Democratic Republic of Congo, and the port is there. There's the Dar es Salaam port and there's the Tanga port. But if you look at the major downside risks to the outlook include business regulatory bottlenecks that constrain private sector activity and uncertainties regarding the pandemic. Let me also try to show you how the growth of Tanzania is. The Tanzanian tourism sector, we've been mentioning about tourism, initiated a plan to get cable car networks at Mountain Kilimanjaro. It is the highest peak in Africa. And if you're to look at a country that has realized, here we've been asking ourselves that, why don't we find something that identifies us? Now, once Tanzania looks at an opportunity that this is where the money is coming through, can actually come from, they invest in there. The initiative to bring in cable networks, I don't think there is any East African country that has so far had this. So it is it is actually in there, it has already been budgeted for. So I guess it will be happening come the next financial year. So the cable network will be helping tourists to actually cross over Mountain Kilimanjaro, to actually hit the peak of Mountain Kilimanjaro. It is very high. Some people are actually very scared. Now for people like me who are scared of heights, I think if I ever get a chance to travel to Tanzania, I'll definitely be delighted to use the cable network. I haven't used it before, just see it in movies and videos anyway. So let's look at this. Spending on large infrastructure projects and depressed revenue performance are expected to widen the fiscal deficit to 3.2% of the GDP in both 2021 and 2022, financed mainly by external borrowing. And the major downside risks to the outlook, we've all seen how COVID-19 has affected main economies, but they've actually tried very hard to curb the poverty. If you look at the rural developments in Tanzania, in one way or the other, there was a time even Ugandans here were actually hitting hard on the president when the Ugandan president went out in Tanzania to open up a school in Tanzania, the Museveni primary school. So you could definitely see that. Now let's look at the major agricultural exports in Tanzania. This doesn't actually go short of what Uganda normally exports, but there is something like tobacco in here, because if you look at the major exports, there is tea, coffee, agriculture. Tea, coffee, tobacco, cotton, cashew nuts. I don't know whether any of you has ever tasted cashew nuts from anywhere maybe. There were a lot of cashew nuts here, roasted cashew nuts in supermarkets. They are quite expensive. And I believe Tanzania is making a lot of money from exporting these particular ones. And in addition, some farmers raise livestock, including cattle, goats, sheep, pigs, chicken, as well as small numbers of turkeys, ducks, rabbits, donkeys, and horses. Now, if we look at the tourism sector, it is quite wide. We can't go without mentioning Zanzibar. Zanzibar is one of the most attractive tour sites in Africa, or if I'm not mistaken, in the world. Because if you look at the coastline alignment and look at the infrastructure they use, you know, tourists love that traditional setting of the Arabic nature. When you're having an ambience, a welcoming one, and you can find that in Zanzibar. How have the people in Zanzibar managed it? The leadership of the Tanzanian presidents that have actually mitigated it. There is no way you've actually seen Zanzibar calling for, I'm actually calling for self-independence in one way or the other, saying that they want to break away from Tanzania. They know the impact. They know what Tanzania has to offer to their economy. They know the part Tanzania's economy is going to play onto them. And mainly when you look at the cost alignment, I don't know. I wish I could actually have an interview with Samia Suluhu Hassan and we get to understand some of the strategies in Tanzania. We need to pick a leaf in one way or the other. But look at this now. The Tanzanian raw material exports are worth 399 million US dollars. This is a product share of 10.87%. Tanzanian raw material imports, now this is the exports are worth $399 million. And then the product share of 10.87%. Now the Tanzanian raw material imports, the imports they get are worth $104 million. Remember the time when we were saying we as a country like Uganda, we need to have our exports outbid the imports. Look at these figures here. Tanzania is actually exporting more raw materials than it's importing. When you look at the exports, they're exporting worth 399 million and importing only 104 million. So that means the money that is actually coming into the country is more than the money going out in terms of the raw materials. And product share is of 1.22%. Tanzania immediate goods exports are worth 937 million US dollars with a product share of 25.53%. That is as of financial year 2020 to 2021. We are in a new financial year, which is also ending come 2022. So there is an increase. Their currency is the Tanzanian shilling, just like we have the Ugandan shilling here. But look at that and try to see that as Tanzania is celebrating independence today, it is when you could definitely come out and say to a country, congratulations, or we say happy birthday, happy Independence Day to the people of Tanzania. We have a number of Tanzanian nationals in the country as well, and we're celebrating with them still in terms of their independence. But looking at the growth of Tanzania, you can only sit back, relax, and say kudos to Tanzania for the time they have input in there, and because the development in Tanzania normally speaks for itself. And if you look at Tanzania, just a little bit of their gross domestic product as of financial year 2020 to 2021 was at 62.41 billion US dollars. And the gross domestic product per capita, 1,076,000 US dollars. And if you look at, let's now talk the internet. Internet users in Tanzania are 20% of the population and expected to be up to 30% by next year. That is from the locals who have completely good internet connectivity. If you look at the streaming services in Tanzania, look at how they respond to it. Here, we've just adopted to Ugandans getting, let's say, the smart internet TVs. Back there, it is already, in there, it is already a trend for each household. People are already having it. And the internet has played a very pivotal role to giving money to the arts sector, the entertainment sector, and all those sectors in there who are using it because they have good internet. And if you look at that, the bigger question would be, if you look at the strongest African economies, Tanzania is one of Africa's fastest growing economies with nearly 70% annual national GDP growth since 2000. So since 2000, there has always been growth. And when you look at how Tanzania has actually been adapting, from the era of Julius Nyerere, the Benjamin Mkapa, now we have Samia Suluhu Hassan, the way they're transitioning, you will not find any challenge after a leader has come through. The leader just takes from the other. And after the leader taking from the other, he adds on to. So after taking from the other, more achievements are coming up. There is no setback in that country there. So if you to look at this, Tanzania's overview, let's try to look at Tanzania's overview regarding the World Bank, if you to look at that. But to all the nations, to the Tanzanian nationals in Uganda, it is a happy Independence Day from us. And we wish you more celebrations. And actually takes me back to the fact that we have 2 months here. In the same month, we have 2 East African community countries celebrating their birthday. Tanzania comes first, 12th December will be Kenya celebrating theirs. Now, let's look at the World Bank statistics in Tanzania, the overview. Following 2 decades of sustained growth, Tanzania reached an important milestone in July 2020 when it formally graduated from a low-income country to a lower middle-income country status. Tanzania's achievement reflects sustainable macroeconomic stability that has supported growth, in addition to the country's rich natural endowments. So if we're to look at that and the strategic geographical position, if we look at the political context, President Samia Suluhu Hassan was sworn in on March 19, 2021 as the United Republic of Tanzania's 6th president. And following the death of President John Pombe Magufuli on March 17th. President Hassan was the vice president of the 5th phase government from October 2015. The new administration has maintained continuity of the political agenda while adjusting its policies and programs to reflect an evolving social and economic context. The broad policy objectives of the 6th phase government remain guided by the Tanzanian government Vision 2025 and it's supporting 5-year development plans. The government is prioritizing implementation of a new strategy to contain the COVID-19 pandemic. And in July 2021, it started implementing the COVID-19 National Vaccination Deployment Plan, enhancing accountability within the civil society and civil sector. The economic overview. Tanzania has fared relatively well compared to its regional peers, but economic growth has slowed significantly with the pandemic induced shocks slowed Tanzania's GDP growth rate from 5.8% in 2019 to an estimated 2.0% in 2020. And shocks to export-oriented sectors such as tourism, manufacturing, and as well as related service, diminished business revenue and labor income have played a very pivotal role in one way or the other. Tourism is a major contributor to the gross domestic product, declined significantly in 2020. The number of visitors plummeted by 60% and the revenues fell by 72%. The private sector credit growth plugged to 3% in December 2020 from 11.1% a year earlier. Then year-on-year decline in other indicators, electricity generation, import of capital goods, government expenditures and taxes also point to a lower growth in 2020, high frequency indicators from 2021. Now, the tourism-dependent economy of Zanzibar has been particularly impacted greatly. But if you look at the fact that Zanzibar plays a very pivotal role in boosting the tourism of Tanzania. So by the fact that COVID hit hard most of the economy's travel restrictions ahead, but they've tried as much as they can to actually try to boost their sectors. As Tanzania's macroeconomic framework remains stable, with low inflation and moderate external and physical vulnerabilities. So Tanzania's journey of celebrating 60 years, 1961 to 2021. Julius Kambarage Nyerere will be a proud father of a nation like this one. Tanzania was formerly known as Tanganyika. If you remember very well, if I'm to remember some of my history classes, the Maji Maji Rebellion. Back in the time, the Maji Maji Rebellion, whereby a certain witch doctor actually told these Tanzanians, the people of Tanganyika, that once I spray this water on you, once a bullet hits you, it is bulletproof. Those are some of the stories that we grew up with in regards to Tanganyika before it actually became Tanzania. So if you have to look at the memories of Tanganyika, that is Tanzania, when Tanzania was actually gaining independence, 1961. And if we're to look at that, well, Tanzania has actually come from quite very far. And if we're to say congratulations on happy independence day, it's a beautiful word. Tanzania did gain independence after 71 years of colonial rule. First it was under Germany and later Britain. At independence, the country had only 11 indigenous university graduates and 71% of the senior civil services were expatriates. If you're to draw back now to the advanced technology in Tanzania, well. I think when Andrew Barigi comes through, he will be taking you through some of how the entertainment sector in Tanzania is faring and how business is in there with their streaming, their business, how the guys are making money. Quite enormous, I would definitely say. And the university, apparently the party that took Tanzania to independence was the Tanganyika African National Union, TANU, Julius Nyerere, Dr. Julius Nyerere. He was also a scholar from the Makerere University. Wow. So you can definitely see the impact Uganda has had on that. Tanzania marks independence 60 years. And what a way to say, wow, congratulations and happy Independence Day to the people of Tanzania. And tell you what, coming up after the break, Barry J. Andrew will be taking you through with entertainment business. And also here to remind you, I was mentioning about Tanzanian nationals. Now production manager is coming in from Tanzania, Madam Bahati Ali. We say congratulations to a happy Independence Day to your motherland in Tanzania. So in one way or the other, to all the Tanzanian friends I do have in there, happy independence. Was about to say lunch on me, but I think lunch will be on you to all the Tanzanian nationals out there, because I think we should come and celebrate with you by you buying us a very huge platter of chicken and pizza. Anyway, coming up after the break is Andrew Baridia with Entertainment Business to give you all the updates coming in from that world of entertainment. We'll be right back.